Good afternoon, everyone. I have to live up to that introduction. So, Stacy, can you just check for me if my people are online? And also the people who are online, thank you very much for staying with us. We welcome you again. And everybody in the audience, hi. So my panelists, are you anywhere close by? Darwesh? Ivy? And Abdulrahman and Abdulrahman and Stephen.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, nice to officially meet you outside the emails.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay, so guys, I'm going to let you introduce yourselves so you can tell people a little bit about what you do. And beyond your name, you know, what fun things are you planning to do this weekend? Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Darwesh Thakuri. I am from Symantec, now Broadcom. I am the technical managers for East Africa, Central Africa, and Indian Ocean Island. So what's my plan to answer you, Carol, is I was just telling Jeremy, it's drinking time now. So after lunch, I should already have started the beers, but I'm sitting here, so just after this one, I'm going at the bar. So the plan is to visit a bit around Nairobi, do some shopping. I need to get some tea for my wife. She mentioned to me I need to get the Kiricho Gold tea, so shopping tomorrow, and Sunday morning, flying back home. So that's the plan.
Well, I'm glad you could be able to join us.
Always a pleasure.
My name is Ivy Kashero. I'm the territory manager for SecureWorks, managing Emerging Africa. What am I planning to do this weekend? So I've heard of joint Samaki. So I'm thinking to do that this evening and then probably enjoy some time with friends and family or before I travel tomorrow. But I guess that's ideally it, food and good company.
Great. Online, is this Abdulrahman? Could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abdulrahman Mohammed. I'm currently working as a security researcher at Carnegie Mellon University Scilab and Privacy Institute. Specifically, I'm working with a team of researchers and engineers trying to research on security research questions that are pertinent to the continent. Prior to that, I worked as a security consultant with clients in different industry verticals across Africa. What I'm planning to do for this weekend, I am an avid mountain biker, and I'm currently in the beautiful city of Kigali, and I also have new mountain biking trails that I'm going to discover over the weekend.
All right, great. My weekend plans is to spend time with my niece. She's a year and a half, and she's adorable. So I'd like to start with you, Darwesh. What is machine learning, and why is the trend growing so fast?
What I think is, human beings are getting lazy. They want everything to get done as soon as they even think about it. And then on the other side, what we are saying is that there is limited skills nowadays when it comes to security. Security got limited budget as well. Once they invested on something, they want it to be on the long run. And without AI, right, if you invest on something that is dependent on the input of human being, you need to keep it up to date, change it, upgrade it all the time.
Okay, so why should a CIO be interested in ML?
The question should be the other way around. So if a vendor is not considering or not having AI or machine learning within its product, a CIO should not consider this product. The reason behind is nowadays we can't predict attacks all the time, right? Because we are getting new type of variants each second. If we need to keep pace of a database, that database would be enormous. So that's why we need to understand what people are doing, what hackers are doing, and to do so, we need to leverage on AI and machine learning.
Hey, Ivy, so we've been talking a lot about security, but is it possible for businesses to be ahead of the hackers? Do they always have to wait for the hackers to bring out the brilliance in them after the hack?
So, I mean, I was listening to his definition around why we need machine learning and artificial intelligence, and he's also said that we've become lazy, right? There's the reason we're able, if we want to be able to stay ahead, the pre-sales guy who presented Palo Alto earlier on talked about how to be able to stay ahead of what the hackers are doing in the concept of applying artificial intelligence and machine learning. But what you want to also be able to do is machine learning and artificial intelligence is enhancing the development of the tools that we are using to be able to focus on automating some of these response capabilities and also ensure that technology and security experts aren't focused on dealing with mundane tasks that have already been dealt with before. But then you also want to also focus on the element of ensuring that you also have the skill sets to ensure that we fill in the gaps that artificial intelligence and machine learning isn't doing. I'd want to give an example. I don't know if you guys follow tennis, but during the incident, during the Australian 21st Grand Slam, there was the game between Medvedev and Nadal. And during the game, prior to the game, the artificial intelligence predictions by IBM was that 64% Medvedev had a chance of winning, and Nadal had 36% chance of winning. And during the first and the second round, Medvedev had really good chance of winning based off the predictions and how he was playing throughout the game. And IBM then predicted 96% chance that Medvedev was going to win and 4% chance that Nadal was going to win. What happened was, during the third, fourth, and the fifth round, Nadal spun the game, and he ended up eventually winning the game. So what that meant is there's an element that artificial intelligence can get to, but you can't negate the need of human intel to be able to guide artificial intelligence and machine learning, because they're just tools that are learning. So if you want to look at a very holistic approach to ensuring that you're managing and responding to cyber threats and staying ahead of the game, you want to look in 2020, you just don't want to focus on monitoring and getting visibility and automated response, considering a lot of vulnerabilities are from unknown threats. You want to stay ahead and have proactive, reactive measures in terms of incident response and threat hunting, red teaming exercises and whatnot. That's just encompassed in giving a holistic visibility. Yeah.
So it's not likely that machines would take over?
No. See, the thing is, machines help to simplify. If you look at the technology space that we're in now, everything is evolving fast. The attackers are using the same tools to ensure that they develop faster than we are. If you're purely dependent on human intelligence, it means humans will take time to develop as fast as the tools that are being developed by the attacker. So what you want to leverage is what has already been learned. You can easily automate that and ensure that you're not looking for a needle in the haystack type of situation. What you're trying to do is automate what has already been done before and the jobs that most IT and security experts don't want to do. And that doesn't mean that you don't need human intel, is that you're simplifying the job to ensure that security experts are focusing on what is important. Yeah.
Okay. Abdirahman, are you there? So based on your background and what you're studying, what would you say machine learning has to do with data? What do they have to do with each other?
I think machine learning without data is, it's like, data to machine learning is like food. So without it, you can't really be able to make sense out of machine learning, because at the end of the day, the purpose that machine learning serves is to make sense out of data and to derive insights from data. So the relationship now between machine learning and data is intertwined. One cannot function without the other. So that's how I will be seeing the relationship between data and machine learning.
So just to think about it, when it comes to the most successful real-world examples of machine learning, could you give a couple of examples that you have experienced and what made them successful? Abdirahman.
Yeah, sure. So I think just tying that into the agenda for this particular conference, into the security use cases. If you think about it, machine learning has become very pervasive and ubiquitous in terms of how it's being applied in the cybersecurity space. One common example is classification of phishing emails. Every email service provider today has some sort of machine learning embedded into their email solutions. So that's why when you open Gmail, for instance, there are some emails that are automatically being quarantined and sent into the spam folder. That is using machine learning. And that is a classical classification problem in machine learning. The other use cases that I can think of in terms of security is user and entity behavior analytics. So a lot of organizations are facing issues of insider threats. And there are a couple of solutions that have been proposed by vendors to counter this particular issue. And a lot of them use machine learning where they try to understand what is normal baseline user behavior in a normal day. And anytime that such there's a deviation from the baseline behavior of a particular user within a network or a system, such solutions will be able to alert you that there's deviation from baseline and that you need to basically triage a certain event and respond to it. So those are like the two classical use cases in terms of security that I can think of that leverages machine learning.
So when I was reading about machine learning, I realized that one of the most successful machine learning programs is actually Alexa. And because she, if you can call it she, it basically listens to what you need and it applies itself according to your behavior. But is there an instant where human behavior can actually be disadvantaged when it comes to machine learning? Because humans have the unpredictability factor, machines do not. Anyone want to take a guess?
Maybe if you allow me, I'll add to more context on the use cases, right? What I have experienced as vendor. Symantec, Broadcom, they know us particularly for our endpoint protection technology, right, for the antivirus part. And most of our customers, what they do, they install the antivirus by just following the wizard. Next, 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 until completion, finish, you start using it. And what we have seen prior of our technology having AI behind the management console was that customers, some of the customers unfortunately got hacked and they reached out to us saying, hey, you know, your technology is not working. But default policy does not mean it's good policy for your organization, right? It might not fit your cybersecurity requirement. What we have now, this is for the past 2 years or more with our new AV, we have adaptive protection within our AV. What is adaptive protection is, okay, you can install the antivirus with the native default protection. And based on what the AV is picking up, based on the user behaviors, based on what is detecting from the user, based on the network where the user is being connected, based on what application the user is installing, based on the version of the application, right? The console comes up with recommendation of how the policies can be fine-tuned. And now it makes life easier for the security team by just doing a few clicks without having much knowledge about the console, just to fine-tune the policy to protect a breach from happening. So this is how we relate AI to our technology. And the other panelist was talking about information, protecting the data. at Symantec, we have the DLP, and DLP is mainly to protect information, confidential information of organization, so that people don't take it outside, right, by defining policies. But by only defining policies, we don't know what people will be doing, because there are new data sets that are being created every day. So by having AI behind our DLP technology, we are able to predict, right? Avinash consumes 100 MB of information per day. Suddenly, I start using 1 GB. This is something fishy. Avinash consumes information from 9 to 5, but suddenly he starts transferring information at midnight. Why? So this will raise the alert to the security team, and the security team will go and investigate. As you mentioned earlier, there is a myth that AI or machine learning will replace human. No, both are complementary. We need both. Thank you.
I just wanted to add something, because I think a lot, what is common to the market now is people are more concerned about being able to detect if something happens, and more concerned about receiving alerts when a critical issue is identified. But I think what security experts should be focusing on is the idea of being able to respond to those particular alerts. Because it's one thing to be able to have an alert, and then it's another thing to be able to do something to mitigate that. And if you're looking at, what you're getting off, all these platforms where you've got policies, artificial intelligence that has also been able to just trigger critical issues within your infrastructure, the next question I'd ask, an organization is, so now what? So what you want to do is ensure from an incident response perspective, you actually have something in place. And we do understand that if you're, for instance, if you have an infrastructure where you're taking a very siloed approach in terms of viewing the security posture of your organization, say you have a network guy focused on looking at your network tools, your SIEM guy who's looking only at your SIEM, an EDR guy. The problem with a siloed view into looking at security, it causes delay when it comes to investigation. And so your mean time to response is extended. It's out of research, it's been estimated that if you're looking at alerts from a very siloed view, it takes a security analyst about 25 to 30 minutes to evaluate one log. And sometimes the log that's coming from your endpoint and what's coming from your network are related. So if you had all your alerts coming to somewhere centralized, where now you're not just getting alerts, you also have the component where investigations are done in such a way that other than just getting positive alerts, you also want a criteria that helps you to manage mitigation and the remediation concept to it. And that's why from a SecureWorks standpoint, we're very keen in ensuring that we don't take the MSSP approach of sending alerts to customers, because this is a domain we've been in the last 22 years. We've been an MSSP vendor, and we do understand that alerts weren't necessarily solving our customers' problems, and the critical aspect that our customers needed was support when it comes to response and remediation. And that's why we now switched from a service provision, we now focus on providing managed XDR services, which means that we provide investigations to customers as opposed to providing alerts. So investigations just allow an organization to, shorten the period of between an alert and knowing what to do after an alert, and just focus on implementing of what the remediation strategies are. And in case of escalations, then they have a point of contact to deal with, which is a huge gap for most organizations. Yeah.
Hey, do I have time for questions? Do I? Anybody have a question? The light is so bright, I can barely see you. Any questions? Yes?
Thank you. A very interesting conversation. I want to disagree with the initial statement in saying that AI is because I think we become lazy. I think AI is so popular because users want personal experiences. In the world of technology, we lose our identity so much. So a customer wants to kind of be identified, or users want to be seen that they are known. So I think that's also a part of that also contributes. But the question I have is around what you're saying around managing and responding. I'm curious to know how you do that to ensure that, one, it doesn't happen again, because what maybe I like about AI and security, it's the ability to learn how a user behaves or how a system behaves in order for it to alert or quarantine if the behavior is out of the ordinary. So with regards to that, how do you guys support in responding? And number two, how do you balance that with the user experience? Like, if it's very big quarantine, are they informed? Like, how does that work in a way that it doesn't really impact maybe the adoption or understanding, or also does not maybe create a lot of fear into what has just happened?
Okay.
So, I mean, looking at, I look at it, so when we're talking about users, I'm not quite sure who users here are. I don't know if you're talking about the end users who are not in tech. Is that who you're referring to?
Yeah, because if you look at most of the attacks, like even the malware or the ransomware,
Yeah.
they mostly target the users. Like you see, like the thing that the Texas thing on the oil, it was
Yeah.
an intern who caused
Yeah.
the breach.
Yeah.
So ideally, a breach often is caused by an end user, or like I think I forget the other one, WannaCry. For a hospital, it was a receptionist
Yeah.
who clicked on a document and it spread across the whole network. So I need to, because most of these attacks start at the end user,
Yeah.
not necessarily the system, before it spreads even to the larger system.
Yeah.
So really understanding what you mean by manage,
Manage.
and how that looks to the person, because rarely do they just, most of them go through, but rarely do they just go through a server.
Yeah.
They enter through someone's system, or someone doesn't know better.
Yeah, I think someone mentioned this earlier on during the day, is the concept of ensuring that end users are educated, and I don't think this only applies to like people who are not in tech, because also cybersecurity experts are part of the vulnerability. I could be a cybersecurity expert, but there's one day something is sent to my email, or something so familiar that I would also fall prey to. But what I would say from a SecureWorks standpoint, how we are able to mitigate that is, as I mentioned, our tools are also leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning. So what that allows us to do is, we have each device that every user uses having access to what we call our EDR tool, which is like an endpoint detection and response tool. And what that is able to give us is visibility to all the devices all the devices within the infrastructure that this device connects to, be it the cloud, any identity tools and whatnot. And then if we want to leverage the aspect of ensuring that we do the prevention to some degree without necessarily enforcing human impact from a security standpoint, you're able to embed sort of use cases within the platform that are able to automate certain things. So for example, if we feel like our end user's email has been compromised and we see this visibility from our side, we're able to automatically trigger a password reset for a customer and for the end user, and what they would see is just a request for them to reset a password, but they wouldn't probably understand why in the back end, but what it triggers them is just to ensure that they're doing something more proactive from a policy standpoint. And then there are other aspects of the containment and isolation of devices whenever there's an issue. And then now the other aspects to which they're not embedded on use case type of scenarios is where then you have the aspect of the security experts doing the back end to ensure that there's mitigation done, especially if it's for things that the system hasn't seen before and is not able to automatically respond to because of lack of information that has been provided to the systems prior.
What I'd like to add as well is that from the user experience side, the user won't know what is happening. That is, whether there is AI or there is machine learning within the security software that they are using. And it is on the vendor side that the process need to be automated. I'll give an example. Somebody is using Microsoft Office 365, and AI pick up that this might be a malicious login, right? So automatically the workflow, the AI should kick in, say, okay, trigger the user for 2FA, right? So it should be something that the user have, like yesterday I was talking about zero trust. Never trust always verify.
I can see Ian telling us we're running out of time. Abdirahman, did we lose you?
Still here.
You can just say one last thing, and then we can switch off this program.
I just want to basically add on to what my colleague said, and especially a word to people buying products from vendors is most of the time, when vendors talk about AI, they're mostly talking about machine learning. And there's some things that you can do to actually make sure that you are buying the right product for your right use case. Try to work with your vendor to make sure that the data that you have in your enterprise environment is going to work with the solution that you're procuring. Because most of the time, when you're being given a POC for a product, you test the product with data that has already been generated by someone else, and that might not be fitting your particular use case. So it's always good to use data that is pertinent to your particular environment so that you can be able to see the real value for the solution that you're procuring, and to see the real value for machine learning in the security solution that you see.
Okay, I have a question. No, I don't. Don't give me that look. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here. It's been great hearing from you, and you've given me a lot of insights into machine learning. I've understood more than I did when I first came here. Yeah. Audience, thank you very much. You've been lovely, even though you didn't ask any questions. And you can wait for the next 2 sessions. Have a good afternoon.